There's a war being fought in full arch implant dentistry, and most of you are on the losing side. You're clinically superior, you transform lives, you don't cut corners, and yet you're losing cases every single day to the billboard down the street that says $14,995 full mouth implants. It's maddening. It feels like the entire world is upside down. Today, we fix that. Not with gimmicks or fluff, but with a proven system to win the cases you deserve at the fees that you command. This is the playbook for dominating your full arch implant market without discounting. Let's start right at the pressure point. Every full arch dentist says they don't want to compete on price. But the moment a cheap arch clinic opens down the street, their fees start dropping. And why does this happen? What is it about this particular pressure that makes even the most confident dentist panic? It's because for some reason, we dentists have been brainwashed to believe that price is the only way to compete. It's an epidemic in our industry, and it's one of the myths that I'm here to dispel. Now, I believe this belief stems from two sources. One is that we dentists have no training in business or marketing, so we just do what we see other people do. Dan Kennedy, one of the world's greatest marketing gurus, calls this marketing incest. And it's a bunch of dentists standing in a circle looking inwards at each other, just copying what everybody else does. It's incestuous, and just like incest, it makes everybody dumber. The second reason, dental marketing companies are taking advantage of us and have been for years. If you tell your implant marketing company you want to do more arches, they have two answers for you. Spend more money on ads, which is great for them, or lower your arch fees, because it's way easier for them to generate leads. So if competing on price is all we see and all we're told to do, it's natural to believe it's the only way, and that's a lie. This isn't a pricing problem, it's a positioning problem. Most patients don't know the difference between your results and someone else's. All they know is that you both said all on four and one was cheaper. When you allow the conversation to be about features, you're encouraging the patient to compare your screw versus their screw. And is there really much difference between yours and theirs besides the price? And that's not their fault, it's your framing. You allowed yourself to be commoditized. You volunteered for the firing squad. So how do we fix this? The only way to win a price war is not to play. If your offer looks and sounds like everyone else's, it invites comparison. This presentation is going to show you how to make your offer so unique that it's uncomparable. We're going to show you how to create a category of one, so you're not the best option for the patient. You're the only option. We're going to do this by changing the entire conversation from titanium and zirconia and price to transformation and a better life. The number one mistake full arch dentists make is selling the procedure instead of the outcome. We love to talk about implants, arches, zirconia, labs, technology, scanners, mills, printers, the steps, our digital workflow, but those are all features. No one dreams about getting implants. What they do dream about is eating ribs again, smiling in photos without dreading the way the pictures are going to turn out, going out with their friends and laughing without covering their mouth. That's what they're buying, and that's what you need to sell. The transformation they will experience when they trade in their current fears and frustrations for a better life. So how do you sell the future? You have to first understand the patient's true motivations and their dreams for a brighter future. And to do that, we need to uncover two critical stories. The first is what I call their Dear Diary story. This is the patient's deepest, darkest, innermost fears and frustrations. It's a story they would write in their own diary. It goes deeper than, I have a missing tooth or I don't like my denture. Those are surface level. We want the core truth deep inside them. The key is to fight the temptation to jump into solutions and instead stay in the question until you get to the truth. Peel back the layers. If a patient says, I don't like my denture, our natural instinct is to jump into our speech about implants and how much better we can make their dentures, and that's wrong. Stay in the question. Ask something like, can you tell me more about that? Or what is it about your denture that's bothering you? Your tone must be gentle and empathetic with curiosity. Let them talk. When they mention an event like their denture shifting at a party, dig deeper. I'm really sorry that happened, Mrs. Jones. Can you tell me more about how that made you feel? And when Mrs. Jones says, it made me feel old and broken and that I'm fading into the background, that is her Dear Diary story. But we're not done yet. We've uncovered their past and present pain. Now we need to uncover their fear of the future. This is the what happens next story. We ask something like, Mrs. Jones, you said you've been dealing with these broken teeth for 10 years and it's been getting worse. Let me ask you though, what do you think happens next if you don't do anything and you break off another 1 or 2 teeth? What do you think happens then? We want them to verbalize their fear. They're probably going to say something like, my partial denture won't fit and then I'm stuck. And we'll say, what do you mean stuck? And then they'll say, I don't know, because there's no way I'm wearing a complete denture. Now you might be wondering why we go through all this trouble asking questions to get the patient to tell us their story. Because if you speak to enough patients, you can pretty accurately guess their entire story just from hearing the first few seconds of it. Why not just tell them what will happen if they don't take action? We already know the answer and how their story is going to turn out. And this brings us to the most important rule of influence in case presentation. Case presentation is much more effective and enjoyable if the patient pulls you forward versus you pushing them along. Think about it. Pushing a patient by telling them what they need, what their future looks like, and what they should do creates immediate sales resistance. Their defenses go up and it becomes an argument. But when you ask the right questions, you encourage them to sell themselves. They're the ones that are verbalizing their fears. You're just asking the questions. They're the ones that are articulating their desired future. They're the ones who come to the conclusion that their current situation is not sustainable and not acceptable. You're just along for the ride, guiding the conversation. It completely changes the dynamic. And let's be honest, it would be way easier for us to just say to Mrs. Jones, you better do something about your problem right now, or else when you break off another tooth, you're going to need a denture and then you're really going to hate it. We get to the same story in the end, but it's 1,000,000 times less effective. The key is this: we don't tell the patient what we think. We keep asking them questions. Why? Because when the patient says it themselves, it engages the emotional side of their brain. And we know these kinds of decisions are made based on emotion and not logic. Second, it keeps them engaged in the consult. If they're doing the talking, they aren't drifting off. And remember, we're not creating value out of thin air. We're simply shining a light on the value and the fears the patient already has deep inside them. And we do that by asking, not telling. And lastly, talking to patients like this positions you as someone completely different, because I guarantee you, no other dentist has ever talked to them like this before, and certainly not at the cheap arch mill. So don't bother telling the patient you're different than the other guys. Show them you're different by how you make them feel. That's the mindset shift that's required to dominate your market, even in a sea of cheap full arch mills. Now here are 2 more quick win strategies you can implement today to create a category of one and prevent price comparison. The second strategy to make comparison impossible is to bundle everything and name it. If your offer is broken into pieces in a list, the CT scan, the surgery, the final prosthetic, and you simply print out a treatment plan from Open Dental or whatever dental software, patients will price shop this list. But if it's one complete branded experience, like same-day implants, a journey that looks, sounds, and feels like something they can't find anywhere else, there's nothing to compare. When we did this, patients stopped saying, that's more expensive than the other guy. They started asking, what's included in your system? And wow, your way's so much better than the other place. It repositions you from a vendor to an expert. And now you've done all this great work and the patient finally asks, Doc, that sounds great. How much does it cost? And this is where most dentists choke. The key is to never quote your fee alone. We use the anchoring principle. Before presenting our fee, we first present another option that's even more expensive and less desirable. For example, we'd say something like, Mrs. Jones, the cost depends. The traditional way to do this requires extensive bone grafting, visits to a specialist, 12 to 18 months of healing with the denture, and by the time you pay the specialist and then pay me, that's when you're spending about $50,000 just for your upper teeth. The good news is, since you do have enough bone, you can skip all that. You don't need any bone grafting or any specialist. We can do the whole thing here in one day, and your fee is only $25,000. By anchoring to the worst, more expensive option first, your fee sounds like a relief. And if this sounds interesting and you want to learn more about anchoring, we have entire full-length videos that dive deeper into why anchoring is so powerful and how to implement the anchoring principle into your full arch consults. If you can learn to master it, it just might become the most powerful weapon to ink your case success. So that's the playbook. This isn't theory, it's a battle plan. First, you change the conversation. Stop talking about titanium and start uncovering their Dear Diary story. Sell the future, not the features. Second, you change the game. Stop selling line items on a treatment plan printout and start selling a unique, branded experience, making comparison impossible. And third, change the math. Master the anchoring principle to frame your fee, making it look more valuable. You follow this playbook and you're no longer in a price war. You're in a category of one. Here's the final truth. It's not your fault you've been playing the price game. You've been lied to, but competing on price is the worst possible move. When you're selling a titanium screw, all patients can compare is the cost of your screw versus the other one. But when you switch your mindset to selling the future, they're no longer buying titanium and zirconia. They're buying freedom, self-confidence, and a better life. Most patients aren't looking for the cheapest solution. They're looking for someone they can trust to guide them out of the pain they're in. The cheap arch clinics have chosen to be the dollar store of an implant clinic. You don't have to play the same game. You do have the opportunity to be that guide.